It is fight night in West Virginia, so if you're ready to rumble, then come out to the Harv here at Mountaineer Racetrack and Gaming Resort. Joining us now is Tom Yankello, and we just talked to one of your up-and-coming stars, Raquan, deciding to turn pro. He said that it was a tough decision. He talked about talking to his father, his mother, and you.
Right.
Well, are you happy with the decision?
Well, you got mixed emotions at first, but no, I think it's a good decision at this point, and I think that we're with the right people, and I think we can do big things in the city and in the whole area here. I think this venue and could be one of the biggest, one of the biggest on the East Coast, without a doubt.
When you see someone like Raquan that makes a decision like that, obviously it's the first step in what he hopes is a long career in boxing. Does it excite you as a trainer to know that you've got this kid who's got so much potential, and he's excited about that potential and where it may take him?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I see nothing but big things for him. Sky's the limit for Raquan. I mean, he's got it all. He can box, he can punch, fight on the inside, fight on the outside. So absolutely. You have to be tremendously excited about when you see a guy like Raquan. I mean, everybody that comes out on his debut will definitely see that.
And he's got a lot of not only national but international experience coming into this. So it's not like he's a rube that just won a few bar fights and is ready to turn pro. Hey, can you try, I don't want to compare too much, but at least at the stage in his development where Paul was when you worked with Paul, and Paul did not fight on the national international stage like as much as Raquan did, but is he where Paul is? Was he ahead of maybe him because of his experience internationally and nationally?
Well, it's kind of hard for me to assess because I wasn't with Paul right when he debuted. I sort of came in after he had turned pro about a year after that. But I mean, Raquan definitely has the credentials and definitely has a lot more experience than Paul had, because when you fight these guys internationally, it's almost like fighting semi-pro. I mean, you're fighting guys that are 27, 28 years old, and then when you come into the pros, you've already faced guys that are basically pros. So. And Paul never got that international experience that Raquan had, and really never got the national experience. I mean, Paul was a state Golden Glove champion and made it to the nationals a couple times, but he always geared his career towards the professional ranks, and he really, I think in the amateurs, Paul really never tried to really exceed and be the best in the amateurs, and he was always trying to be a great pro. So it's hard to really evaluate that situation, but I think that Raquan definitely, going in on paper, definitely is ahead of the game. I mean, he's got all the credentials in the world. So,
reaching #1 a year ago, and talking about Athens and having that in his crosshairs by then, you think that might have been too early, and that maybe kind of preyed on him? Yeah, I can't wait to turn pro. I can't wait to turn pro.
Well, he's always wanted to turn professional at some point. I always thought that he really, we wanted to go to the Olympics, but the deciding factor was that, the Olympics today are not what they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. These guys are fighting at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're only showing 2 and 3 weight classes at a time. Sometimes they only show 2. Sometimes you don't even get on. I mean, he may, and they don't show. Basically, all they've been showing in the last Olympics was the gold medal round. Yeah. So unless you're winning to the gold medal round, sometimes you don't even get seen, and you're on cable. Or before, when Sugar Ray Leonard was fighting, it was on primetime television. It was on ABC, and it was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in front of the whole world. So, we had a lot of things to gauge. But when we had the opportunity to work with Ted Arnaud and work and do the things that we're going to have the opportunity to do here, it was like I said, I had some mixed emotions about it, but I left it up to him, and he made the ultimate decision. It was his choice at the end.
That's a good point that Tom raised. Sugar Ray Leonard was a star by the time he even got to the medal round, because he was so vibrant, and boxing was on, and boxing was big, and ABC, who had the Olympics in those days, if we can remember back that far, made him a star by then. Whereas like Jermaine Taylor, who just fought on Paul's card a month ago in Pittsburgh, he was a medal winner, and he was a pretty well-known boxer. For boxing people, but the rest of America really didn't know him, and he's got to kind of remake himself as a pro, and he's still not to star status. He's, co-feature status in Paul's fight was a big move for Jermaine Taylor, and it's been a while since he fought in the Olympics, 2 years.
And you talked about Raquan. He always wanted to be pro. Well, everybody has a dream when they're 14, 15, 16. I want to play pro football. I want to be a professional baseball player.
Exactly.
When did you know, having been a professional trainer for quite some time, that he had it? That he could be a talented boxer. If not in the professional ranks, at least he had something to pursue. At least
he had you at hello, right?
I think at probably his 3rd amateur bout, I seen things in him that I just knew he was he was going to be on another level. I mean, he right from the door, everything that I ever worked on him with and ever taught him, and he picked it up. I mean, I'd show him one thing, next day he'd have it. So I mean, he absorbs things like a sponge, and I knew from probably, I'd say within 6 months of working with him, when he was 11 years old, that he was going to be something special.
Let's talk about Paul Spadafore real quickly. A big decision for him about a week or so ago, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Were you behind the decision? Do you like this decision at this stage in his career to give up one of those belts? Is it like taking a step back to take a step forward?
I think it's a great decision actually, because I think Paul's going to be a bigger, better fighter at 140. I think people are going to see the best of him now at 140. I think that for the last two years they haven't seen the best of him. He's been having a real tough time making 35. At 140, he's going to be the real deal. I mean, he's going to have he's going to have everything. He's going to have everything that makes him great at all cylinders, at 100%. So I think, I like the decision. I think that he's going to be a better fighter at 140. I think sky's the limit at 140 pounds. I mean, he can. I've seen Paul box with guys for the last 7 years at 100. I've seen him box middleweights and get the better of them. So I don't see a problem. Everybody's like, well, there's big guys at 140. Believe me, this guy can fight. And his defense and his slickness is going to be even that much more evident, because a lot of these guys are big and strong, and they look to use their their strength and their size, and he's got the craft. I mean, the craft 90% of the time wins. The biggest thing that's been bothering him is just making the weight. Really, you haven't seen the best of him, believe me.
And what I meant by taking a step forward, take a step back, giving up the belt. Was it hard for him to give up the belt and then look at the big picture down the line?
No, because he wanted to get out of 35. He really was.
Okay.
It's hard to believe.
When you go you go for 6 weeks, time and time again, 7, 8 weeks, and really having to watch everything you do, everything you eat. I mean, it's a relief for him. I mean, and he knows that he'll be a better fighter at 140. I mean, he for years we've known that when he goes up, he's going to carry everything that he's ever had, and he's going to be that much better. I mean, Paul actually, if you see him in training camp, is actually a pretty decent puncher. And people have not given many credit at 135 pounds. Well, that's because he's not at his full strength. And that's why, he's going to be a lot better puncher also. And I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be a knockout puncher, but he's definitely has a lot more power than people can appreciate at 135 pounds.
I still can't believe he's maintained the same fighting weight for half his life.
Oh, man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. He was he was in the amateurs at 132 since the time he was like 15, 16 years old. So you're looking at 10 years basically being the same weight. That's hard when you're 5'9½".
Hey, go ahead.
I was going
Chuck,
to say,
I'm
I think the last fight is a good example with Doreen, in that he showed a lot of punching ability. He really, was a fighter, was a flurry fighter, and something that the folks at home really like to see. And I think that's a byproduct of what he wants to do, or that shows what he wants to do at the higher weight. And he himself says, and I'm sure you saw it, that he felt he had to kind of conserve that energy. And not be the boxer he really wants to be until maybe the later rounds. Right.
I mean, that's exactly right. You haven't seen him go all out because he's always thinking that, he's going to get fatigued. He's going to get fatigued. Now at 140 pounds, you're going to see, all out. I mean, and I feel that at 140 pounds, he's going to still carry the speed that a 135 pounder does. So that's going to make the difference at 140. And like I said, he's really probably the craftiest guy in the game right now. I feel he is one of the craftiest guys, if not the craftiest guy in the game.
Was a rematch more important to Spatty with Doreen, or was it more important to Doreen?
Yeah, let him fight it out.
Yeah, and I'm not too sure that might still not happen.
Right.
I think that HBO wants great fights. They don't really care about the titles anymore. I think the titles don't mean a thing, and I think they want to see great fights. I think that you'll probably see Paul and Doran at 140. I mean, I think that's a good. I think HBO wants to fight.
And the reason why I ask is because we had Paul on shortly after that bout. I think it was a couple days after that, first Monday after that fight, and I think he was happy with his performance, but I think he felt it could be better.
Oh,
so I wonder if he's still hungry for a chance to get back at and prove, maybe finish some unfinished business.
Oh, absolutely. And at 140 pounds, I mean, I can go on record, and I'll make a statement. I feel that. He'll dominate. He'll dominate Doran at 140 pounds. I think, like I said, the only thing that really, kept Doran in the game was a couple things. I think Paul could have boxed a little bit more. I think he let his ego get a little bit of the better of him. He's got a lot of pride, and a lot of people for a long time have said that he couldn't bang and he couldn't do this and he couldn't stand in front of a guy like Doran and work. And he wanted to show everybody that he has many dimensions, and he can stay in front of a guy, he can move on a guy, he can do it all. And that's what he really wanted to show, that he could fight that guy's fight and win the fight. So I think he's going to box a little bit more the next time, but at the same time, he's going to be that much stronger. And really, Doran won't be any stronger at 140 pounds because he's 5'4", and it's really not, you know, doing anything for him to be, you know, 5 pounds heavier. I mean,
he's not going to grow before
yeah,
then.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul's going to grow big time because I mean, he's going to fill the weight. You know, he's going to fill the way he does in the gym. Where Doran, you know, making 35 is probably not any more difficult than making 140 for him.
Last question, any guys we should keep an eye on here tonight outside of Raquan's announcement that will come out of the ring? I mean, in the ring.
Oh, there's a lot of good guys from Pittsburgh coming up. I believe Rayco Saunders is fighting tonight. Mike Carr, a good kid that I have had one of my Calvin Brock sparring with, my Olympian, is Dan Harvison from Keysport. He's an up-and-coming cruiserweight. He can really box. He's really good. And I'm working with Monty Clay. Monty Clay is going to be definitely a featherweight or a junior lightweight to watch in the next 3 or 4 years also. I think he's got a great potential. He's developed in every bout that I've had him, and he's developed over the last 6 months tremendously from a year ago. I mean, Monty's a totally different guy, and I think he'll show it here tonight.
You're going to have to get a bigger gym, man.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
That's a good thing.
Definitely. It's a good thing. That's right.
Well, best of luck with Paul.
Hey,
best of luck with Raquan. And
Appreciate
any
it.
other guys that you have coming up that we don't know about just yet, but we will probably in the not-too-distant future?
Oh, absolutely. I got the African assassin, Abraham O'Kine.
See, I was giving him a plug. He knew where to go with it.
And I got another kid that's coming back. He's pretty good, and he had a good amateur background. He had a couple rough breaks as a pro, but he's coming back, and he'll be fighting at a lighter weight as Scott McCracken. He was fighting at welterweight and junior welterweight, and he's going to be fighting at lightweight now. And I think it's going to make a big difference because he has a great punch. He's a great puncher. So I think I got about 5 or 6 really good guys to watch.
All right, Tom, thanks so much for the time.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Tom Yankello joining us live here from Mountaineer. Chuck Finder and I will be back with more Sports Beat right after this.